Well, you may be asking, Will, what is this? Well, to put it quite simply, it's a piece of cedar. These slabs I picked up quite a number of years ago. If I said 10 years ago, I think that's too short. I think it could be a little bit longer. I picked them up from a guy who was clearing out his yard. He just had these slabs laying around and he just needed to clear it as quickly as possible. So he put a post up online and said, if you can come down, fill your car up and it'll only be 60 quid. So I turned up with a van and gave him £100 and I got quite a bit more than what I expected. These two slabs that I'm going to be working on over the next couple of days are basically what's left of what I purchased from the guy. If I was to go out and buy these now, God, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of pounds, but what am I actually going to be making with them? That is the question. My wife has asked me to make a garden table and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. This is going to be the slab top. I'm not really going to be flattening this. I don't think it's worth it. It's pretty flat already. All I'm going to do is hit it with the sander and just take off all of that roughness, and then I'm going to finish it with some Rubio Monocoat Duragrit, which for me I've found to be one of the best exterior products going on the market. I did do a quick design for this table as well. I think it's going to look quite nice. Everything's going to be nice and chunky, and yeah, I do need to make some benches, however. They'll come later. They're actually going to be made from oak slabs that I also picked up a number of years ago, and they've been air drying in my lockup. So let's just get on and make something, shall we? The first thing I'm going to do is sand the main tabletop slab back to bare wood. Years of being outside without a proper seal coat have left it pretty weathered, discoloured, worn and just generally rough looking. For this I'm going to be using my Festool Rotex. This thing has more than enough power to make quick work of sanding down slabs like this. I've got 40 grit on it, absolute savage grit, but it rips right through the grime and gets me straight back to clean timber. Then I brought out my number 4 hand plane to knock down some of the high spots. I'm not chasing a perfectly flat surface here, it's a slab table. It's going to be living outside and it's going to move anyway. I felt the plane sticking in places, so a little tip is to put a layer of candle wax over the sole. This helps stop the friction between the plane and the wood and helps it glide nicely. With the top prepped, I shifted to the second slab. I jointed one edge on the planer, and that's all I really care about because I'm ripping these into roughly 75mm strips on the table saw. So there is absolutely no point flattening the whole thing when it's cut and twisted. I'd lose way too much material. Once those were cut down, I ran the new edge back over the planer to square it back up. Then pushed them through the thicknesser to get consistent dimensions. To make life easier, I rough cut the boards down so they were more manageable on the panel saw. I'm using the saw's fence with a simple plywood backing piece I marked with reference lines. Nothing fancy, just efficient. With everything rough sized, I brought the pieces back into the shop for glue up. All the legs and cross pieces except for the top stretcher, are doubled up for a chunkier, more solid final look. For glue, I'm using a polyurethane glue from Cascamite. I've been trying out more of their stuff recently, and I'm really liking how it performs. After the glue up, I threw the parts into the veneer press to cure. Then scraped off the squeeze out once everything was set. Next up, I planed and thicknessed all the parts to their final size. Getting everything consistent now makes joinery easier later and gives me flat, clean surfaces to work from. Then it was over to the chop saw to cut the 12-degree angles for the legs. I could have done this on the panel saw, but setting it up would have taken longer. Plus, I already had the chop saw out. Unfortunately, the battery did die halfway through, of course, so I had to pause and charge it. But it still ended up quicker than messing around with a panel saw. Back in the main shop, I started assembling the leg frames. I marked out all my layout lines and got out my Festool domino to cut the mortises. I'm using exterior grade dominoes. The standard beach ones just won't survive the elements. I also cut some 12-degree clamping blocks to make the glue up easier. Without them, clamping across those angle joints is basically impossible. The joints turned out really clean, proper snug. Bosh! Once the glue cured, I scraped off the squeeze out again and cleaned them up. Then I laid out the mortises for the lower stretcher. Having everything the same size here really did help. Marking is dead simple and gives me solid, well-aligned joints. I'm not going to be gluing the stretcher yet though, as it will make transporting the table way easier if it's not fully fixed. Then I moved on to the top stretcher that connects the leg assemblies. This will hold the legs to the underside of the table. Again, no glue yet, as I still need to machine the fixing points. The stretcher gets a series of half lap joints equally spaced across the top. This gives me multiple points of contact to help keep the tabletop stable and flat over time. I made a quick jig off camera to cut the half laps. It's just a 90-degree fence with a second piece spaced out by a block. Dead simple, but it works beautifully and the joints came out bang on. Back at the chop saw again, I added bevels to the ends of the cross pieces that attach to the underside of the tabletop. You don't have to do this, but I think it finishes off the piece nicely. Cutting bevels like this without a jig can be sketchy. I threw one together from scrap that keeps the board upright and square to the blade, while still letting me hit the angle that I want. Safe and effective. After cutting, I planed off all the burn marks from the saw blade to clean up the edges. Next up, mounting holes. These would be a nightmare to cut once the piece is glued, so I tackled them now. Once again, I used the Domino's extra wide cutting setting with a 10mm bit. First pass was from both sides with a depth of approximately 38mm. Doing this gave me an approximate 13mm width hole. This gives me room to countersink the screw head and washer below the surface. Then I switched to a 6mm bit, same as the M6 screw size, and cut the centre slot through from the other side. This setup lets the screw slide across the grain as the wood expands and contracts. Without that, it's just a matter of time before something splits. You'll also notice that I've had to clamp the Domino's base. This is because the Domino DF500 only has a depth of 30mm. To give me the extra that I needed, I had to remove the two plastic caps on the top of the track. The locking lever doesn't give enough purchase like this, hence the clamp. And no, before you ask, I didn't have a smaller one. Once that was sorted, I glued the top stretchers to the leg assemblies. Same glue, same dominoes, and a rock solid connection. With the whole base dry fitted, I laid out the holes for the threaded inserts. Screws alone might rip out under movement, or if I needed to take the table apart. Inserts give me a reusable, solid fixing point. I used my new drill press for these, and I did a review on this over on another video. I'll leave a link if you want to check it out. Now, remember how I said at the start that I'll be using Rubio Monocoat Duragrit because I can spray it and I hate painting by hand? Yeah, well, I lied. I thought I had a tin left, but apparently I ran out. So I ended up using Rubio's wood cream instead. It's still a high quality product, but I had to suck it up and grab the paintbrushes. In total, I did 2 coats and applied these about an hour between them. And once that was done, I left it overnight to fully cure. I am so pleased with how this table has come out, considering these slabs have been resting against the side of my workshop for nigh on how many years. They've had to endure a lot of the weather, and I'm really surprised that they're in such good condition as what they are. I'm incredibly pleased with how this has come out. I'm also glad that I shortened it as well. So the original design was a 2-meter length table, and after a little bit of conversation with the boss, we decided that it was just going to be far too big for our 4-person family. So we decided to take it down to 1.6 meters, and I think that is going to be the perfect size. I'm really happy with how the legs have come out. I think they look fantastic. although I did forget to put the cross pieces on, but ultimately I don't think it takes away from the overall design. I think it looks really, really good. I'm super excited to get this back in the garden and to start using it. Get all the family around it, start having some barbecues now that the sun is out. Can't wait. I really hope you've enjoyed this build as much as I have, and if you have, please consider subscribing so you can keep up to date with all of my latest videos. Until the next time, I will see you all very soon. Benches now. I need to make some benches.